Welcome to Thought Leader Life number 30. I'm Michael Procopio.
And I'm Mitchell Levy. My last week in Quebec, Canada. It's great to be here. Our guest today is Kai Roer, and Kai is a consultant on security culture and user awareness of that. What's very cool from a thought leadership perspective, he's just creating a security culture framework. He's a very avid blogger. He's part of the expert panel at Information Security Buzz and a columnist at Help Net Security. He does a lot of speaking, although a little bit less these days because he's going back to school for his psychology education. He's authored a chapter in a book on protecting our future and has written a book called Cloud Security Rules and has a number of interesting books and other projects going on. If you actually Google Kai Roer, you're going to see that he owns everything. He's got a really nice LinkedIn profile. His name is everywhere, and it's pretty impressive. And it's somebody I relate to because he's been working for himself for over 20 years. Kai, great to have you.
Thank you for being here.
Kai, what's your definition of a thought leader?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'll start with leader. To me, someone who is a leader is not someone who walks in front and kind of drags people behind him, but someone people choose to follow. So for me then, a thought leader is a leader with thoughts or ideas, creativity that people choose to follow. And for me, that means that I cannot make myself a thought leader, but people can choose to follow my thoughts and ideas and whatever I do.
So if somebody is following you and excited about what you do, and the conversations we've had when I've got to sort of know who you are, has got me to very interested in what you do because we're doing very similar things. Can you talk a little bit about what security culture means and user awareness? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, let's start with culture, which is something I over the years I come to really enjoy. And culture are the ideas, the behavior, the things that people do together in a group that kind of defines that group. And looking at that, you can think that different groups have different kinds of culture, and that means, again, that different groups can impact each other. We also know from sociology that individuals form or impact the culture of a group, just as we know from psychology that the culture of the group impacts the personality or person. So it's like a constant feedback loop. So that is culture. When it comes to security culture, those are the ideas, behaviors, and all things that a particular people or group does that impacts their security, either in a positive way or in a bad way. So you imagine that you are walking down the streets of New York and you hit maybe Brooklyn, which may not be so safe after dark. And you don't know that, so you just stroll down the street with your Rolex and your iPhone and your camera and everything. From a security culture perspective, that would be not safe behavior, which is something that we would then try to change to teach you how to behave in that kind of environment.
So, by the way, Brooklyn gets a bad rap. They're much more progressive, much more safe place to be these days.
Hopefully they are. This week I've been to Ljubljana, then the capital of Slovenia, and I don't think I ever felt as safe anywhere in the world. Actually, it was just fantastic.
So what made you feel safe? What was a sign that gave you that type of feeling? And then how does that relate to online culture?
as humans, we pick up signals from the environment, from people around us, from everything that goes on. Usually these are cultural, so it's a lot of learned behavior, which means that as long as I feel confident and recognize the behavior of my location, then I tend to feel more familiar. And familiarity is a safety mechanism. Another thing that you see is lack of threat or lack of threatening environment, people, things like this. And in Ljubljana, that was evident by people smiling, being very touristy, but still not so touristy that it becomes too much. Showing care, not walking you down on the street, but taking a step to the side, respecting that we were together in a small place. So if you take those kind of mechanisms and translates that to online or internet, we have the same mechanism, we have the same behavior, but the difference is that we only read that behavior through what we see, which are usually pictures of cats or text in 140 characters, which doesn't give us the context, the environment around that we need, or our brain needs, in order to interpret the whole situation. We see just a small part of it.
Got it. So online, what do you see today versus what do you think when you go and talk to corporations? What are some of the things they need to be thinking about to have the right security culture in place?
Oh, there are many things. But from you need to learn. You need, well, I usually say that you need three elements. You need policies, which are rules, laws, moral and ethics codes. You need technology, which are the tools we use, including the software, the security software, and all those things. And the third element are people. And by people, I really think of competence, understanding, behavior, and ideas, which means that we need to train them. Now, we have all these three elements in the internet and in technology today. The challenge we face is that they need to support each other. So you can think of, from a policy perspective, you want the people to know the policies and understand them so that they can follow them and use them. And still from a policy perspective, you want technology to help you enforce them, either by giving incentives, by making it very hard to do bad stuff, or by other ways making the right choice easy to make. And the same is from technology perspective. You want the policies to tell what kind of behavior or what kind of things you are allowed to do and not. And you want people to understand this by knowing how to use the technology correctly. And from people perspective, you need competence. You need to know and learn how policies apply to you and the organization you work with. And you need to know and learn how technology both can be your friend and your enemy. In the sense that you can have technology do fantastic things like having automatic insulin pumps feeding your bloodstream with insulin when you need it. But from the enemy perspective, bad people can hack that insulin pump and kill you just because of the fun of it.
Interesting. Right. That'd be a bad thing, obviously.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about your acronym PTP, and I liked, in today's world, I like the fact that you put policy first. And it's interesting to me. Tell me why you chose that order: policy, technology, people.
Yeah, it's culture. Everything goes back to culture. Yes, we as people, we form the culture, but culture is a lot about rules, policies, if you like. Basically, in the culture, you have rules, you have laws, you have moral code, you have ethical code, you have group dynamics that force you to do the right thing according to those group policies. So there can be no culture without policies, just as there can be no culture without people.
Got it. So why would you put technology? So why is technology in the middle? I understand. By the way, this is good. I'm enjoying this. I'm just sort of.
It's like a triangle. So they are like interconnected here. The technology for me are the things that, or one of the major things that makes human. The way we use technology and constantly innovate on them and build on them and take ideas and technology and things that we did last year, this year, we do it differently, we do it better, we do it just differently. So they are interconnected. Yeah. Then you can think of technology as much more than just computers. A fork is a technology. Knife. Imagine the club we wandered around with, I don't know, tens of thousands years ago. It's technology. Back then, probably state of the art, right?
Got it. No, that's helpful. That was the key I needed to tie it together. If you think about the technology as a tool, as the tool that is really helping tie the ethical norms that are put into place by the policies and the people who are implementing those policies. Got it.
Yeah. Imagine then Stone Age people, right? Our state-of-the-art tool, our iPhone all the time, would be a big ass club, right?
Right.
But if I started to kick you or throw this club into your head just because I didn't like you, that would be bad for the society as a whole, right? So we implemented policies to make me use the tool to hunt, but not to whap your face with it.
So this is interesting. Oh, by the way, I think that's the first time anyone used the word "big ass club" on our show. So congratulations.
I'm from Norway. We do this all the time, right? I'm a Viking.
Well, then we need to interject some more Viking things in our show. It's interesting because all of a sudden I started thinking IT. And IT is people, process, technology, right? So what you've done is you've sort of replaced technology with tools and replaced process with policy, and maybe that is what culture's all about. That's fascinating.
It's you can lift it up and say that it's just different words, different terminology, trying to describe the same thing. And sometimes that is really necessary, like when you're working with standards or trying to make a common, what you call it, common baseline, a common body of knowledge. Then you want to define them, and then the definition will be really critical. But sometimes that will kill everything that you try to communicate. So you need to make it simple, easy to understand, easily accessible. Hence the big ass club, and not some abstract technology that neither of us will grasp the meaning of.
Let me ask you both the same question. So, Michael, you could prep this one too from your experience. Where in the world, in larger corporations, where does this fall down, right? In terms of cultural norms, moving from one area, let's just say the industrial area, into now into the internet age where we're doing things differently. Where does this all fall down?
Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. Kai, I was thinking maybe you would start, and then Michael, you could sort of.
Do you mind doing it the other way around?
Oh, you ready, Michael? You got it?
Yeah. I think it's not so much a matter of it falling down as it is very hard to change culture. And I'll give you an example. In the United States, right, we've managed to make smoking a really bad thing in about 10 years.
Sorry about that background noise. That's me. Sorry. I didn't
Oh,
realize all our cell phones were on. Sorry. Hopefully we're done.
whereas we have not managed to be able to do the same thing with drugs. So I think it's an incredibly difficult thing to do to change culture, and uh, you're lucky when you succeed.
What about
I
it?
have to say here that I respectfully disagree.
Good.
And there are a lot of science, a lot of research supporting my view here. But there are also a lot of research supporting your view, Michael, because there are a lot of failed attempts to change culture, not only in America or a country like Norway, but also in organizations. So it is a common idea that it's very hard. But in the 60s, at Stanford University, they did research called the Stanford Prison Experiment. And what they showed there is that within less than 48 hours, I think it was in less than 24 hours actually, they took a group of complete strangers, and then they created two subgroups. One they called prison guards, and one they called prisoners. And just by doing that and separating them, giving them a little bit different tasks, within 24 hours, all prisoners identified themselves with being a prisoner and created this prisoner culture. And what was possibly worse, where the same thing happened to the guards. They identified with the rules so strongly that they started to really do not so nice stuff. So it shows that it's possible. The question is then, of course, is it easy? And there I would have to give it to you, Michael, that no, most times it's not easy.
Interesting. So, in terms of relating this to social media policies, corporations being able to relate not just to their customers but to employees, what you're talking about is making sure the right policies are in place that then the technology can both support, hopefully more with carrots than big ass clubs, and followed by people being educated so they can do things effectively. Right? That's kind of
Yes.
what you're saying.
Yes, it's very much what I think. But what may be very important to also bring into this is that it may not be policies that start the process and then people and technology follow. Sometimes it's technology that enables us to do something else, and then people start to use it. Sometimes people start to use technology in ways that technology were not really designed to do, but we still do it, and then we need policies to regulate it. Other times we start with policies and say we need to do this or that. For example, when it comes to car driving, we have policies to ensure security inside the vehicles or safety, and then the car manufacturers have to follow up and actually build this in. So it depends a little bit on where it starts, but they play together.
So here's a question. You deal with security and security culture. Is it always the case that someone is basically not playing by the rules, and that's what causes the cycle to start? So maybe you do have a technology that's been enabled, and then someone chooses to use it in a negative fashion, and then now we've got to develop policies and procedures and figure out other technology to stop that from happening. Is that the way it usually goes?
I don't have any research that shows which way it usually goes, but that is one way it goes. So yes, sometimes that's how it happens. Other times, like going on in EU right now about privacy concerns, something you guys over there on the other side of the pond have no idea what it is, but that's a different thing. That's a cultural thing actually. But here the EU have decided, okay, we need to regulate this more. We need to change the way we currently do it, not because people ask us or because people do something strange or not, but because to us it's important to have this policy in place. While other ways you can think of, as Mitchell mentioned, social media, and how social media has transformed the world and life of people, of organizations in just like a decade. Think of how you guys use Hangouts. You wouldn't have done that 2 years ago. It's social media, it's technology. It comes with some policies and regulations. You are not allowed to do some stuff here, but still, it's a fantastic technology.
Yeah, but I want to go back to the privacy policy in Europe. You don't think that some of the, let's say, activities of the U.S. National Security Agency didn't affect those policies, people being concerned about putting those policies in place?
Obviously, that is the notion that people have over here and possibly also in the US. But the fact here is that this the Privacy Act has been under revision for more than 7 years. It's just typical bureaucracy and all these things that takes time, which is why it haven't happened yet. I think I did the first review on it in 2007 or 2008 or something. So this is not a new thing. It just takes a lot of time for them to get it right. And that is a challenge we face with when you take policies and lift it up to legislation, especially then in larger places like EU and the US, where processes of making legislation may take a long time, and there are a lot of different interests that needs to come together and figure out what is the right thing to do, even though the only thing we know about the future is that it will not slow down.
I like it. So, for those that are listening versus watching, I just want to point out that behind Kai, first he has his replica guy with a suit and hat, and then the other piece is you've got a lot of toys behind you, and these are kids' toys, but you apply them. Why don't you talk about the one you just picked up, and also, if you don't mind, explain to those that are listening what that is.
Yeah, I'll sure do that, Michelle. This is one of my favorite tools. It's a toddler's, what do you call them, a filler box or something? I don't know the English name of it. So it basically is a box filled with items that you are supposed to take one of the items and figure out which hole this item fits into. Everything that toddlers do, and it's fine. This particular one I call my brain, and it's because it's empty sometimes, but more importantly it comes with different colors and different shapes, just like my brain have mental models. And mental models are one way that we interpret information, the way we pick up all those small tiny signals without making a lot of time figuring out why did we feel like that, or why do I like Mitchell first time I meet him, why don't I like this guy that I met on the street yesterday. All those things are automatically processed in our brain. And using these mental models, my brain is really efficient. So for example, I can think of this, which is then a blue square box, as a message. So let's say this is Mitchell telling me something. Then when this comes into my brain, it will find a matching pattern out of the different things, say like a triangle, a circle, or oval, or whatever, or in this case, the square thing. And then it hits the square. It fits
you're trying to imply, Kai, you're trying to imply that my message is a square? Sorry, I just,
Yeah, well, some of them maybe, but yeah, that over here I don't think it's bad to be square. But then again, I am very crazy anyway. They tell me so. Yeah, but then let's say that you are circular instead then. So it's a new message. This time it's red and it's circular, and I don't have form or this mental pattern in my mind. So unless I stop my brain and makes it really work, it will just find any hole. Here's one hole. It's oval, not circular, but yeah, it fits. What happens inside my brain now is that Mitchell's red message or circular message hits my brain and turns oval. In other words, I don't understand what he says. I think I do. In my head, I hear an oval, so I think, yeah, I get you now. But I didn't.
And by the way, that explains so many conversations I've had over the last couple of weeks. It's crazy.
It's my life, basically. It's how it is.
So it is fun. I do this a lot when I speak too. It is fun to use kids' toys to sort of give adult lessons, because we're always much more open when we allow ourselves to think about how we were when we were young. Some of the barriers that we've learned over a number of years then start going away.
Yeah, and it's a lot of both biological and psychological evidence to support your statement there. One of them is the development of our brain. As a 12-year-old, I think you have like 4 times as many neurons active in your brain than you have as 20. Because they kind of explode as you are a child, and then you reach adolescence, and it kind of, I don't know, maybe it keeps the good ones. Let's hope they keep the good ones and kick the bad ones out. So that's one thing that works. But when it comes to mental models, there are a lot of research also suggesting that some of them are biological, which means that they are kind of inherited, but you can teach yourself new, which means that, and this is my hope, this is good for me, because it means that if I didn't have this red circle inside my head, I could learn it. And by taking the time to learn this mental pattern, I become so much more efficient in working with those sorts of messages or problems or whatever going on. A challenge that a lot of experts see is that what they focus on, they are so focused, so let's say instead of building a lot of different mental models, they instead enhance and strengthen one or a few or a selected few, which makes them really good in that particular area, but may be a challenge for them when they try to understand something completely different.
And when I'm thinking, I hear you're saying mental models, and I know you're applying them to your brain. I'm also thinking corporations. So corporations' mental models or approaches to interacting with their employees, interacting with their customers or advocates, their social media policies and practices and interactions all relate to what you're talking about, is making sure that the right models are in place, the right tools that can help amplify those models, as opposed to sort of the stick and the big ass club, that those are in place and the employees are educated so that they know how to approach it properly. That's how I'm tying all this together. I think it's brilliant.
And I think you do a very, very good job there, Mitchell, because what you do is show in practice that learning works, sharing the message is really important, and you also tie into another very important thing here is intrinsic motivation. So instead of trying to tell me what I should think or should do with the big ass thing that we hit in the head, you come to me and you form a message that I can buy into, and then I have inner motivation, which research shows that is much stronger than anything else you can do to me.
Nice.
So you are doing a fantastic job.
Oh, well, thank you. I was actually talking about you, but thank you. as being as on Thought Leader Life, we're officially calling you out, Roer, as a thought leader. We'll send you your own badge that you can put on your website that you were officially on Thought Leader Life. We appreciate you doing this, and it was a slightly different show and thought process. But I think if you're listening to this and you tie, what's nice about recorded shows, whether it's video or audio, is when you re-listen to it and you tie it together with what you're actually doing today in your practice, in your organization, a lot of what you said is very relevant in terms of just really thinking about things slightly differently.
Totally, and that's the mindset, I think, of a thought leader. Be creative, go outside, try to mix stuff up. People think I do a lot of different things, and yes, I do. I cook, I have a hydroponic garden, I travel, I meet people, I talk about different topics. And what happens then, I learn new stuff, creating new connections, new mental models, making me more efficient in doing whatever it is that I do. So yes, go out there and spawn ideas.
So Kai, as we'll wrap up here, is there anything that we didn't ask you that we should have?
There are possibly a lot of difficult questions that I'm very happy that you did not ask. So.
Oh, we got to work on that for next time.
Mitchell, any last items as we wrap up?
No, I think I mentioned that before. It's a pleasure reconnecting with you, Kai, and I enjoy listening to your thought processes because what you're doing in security culture is so relevant to everyday culture, both on the consumer and particularly on the B2B side. And so I appreciate getting to play and learn a little bit more with what you're doing.
Thank you so much for inviting me here. I enjoyed it even more. As we figured out, we've gone back more than 10 years, and it's really nice to be able to use this modern technology and still stay in touch. So thank you so much for inviting me and having me here.
Great, thank you.
Perfect ending music.
I'm so sorry. I could get up in the middle and just throw all the cell phones out, and I just have to. I'm in a different location than normal. I just normally, I turn off all the phones, I throw everything. So please accept my apologies for all the fun music in the background.
Not a problem.
May I then give a final tip here when it comes to changing culture? Change environments. The thing that you experience now, Mitchell, is that you are out of your normal environment, and then you forget to do the normal things that you usually will do. So changing culture, take people out of the normal and challenge them a little bit, then they will change too.
Wow, that's my aha moment of the day. Thank you.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on Thought Leader Life, and we'll talk to you all next week.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks, Kai. Thanks, Michael.